quick overview of the mobile marketing market as far as I'm concerned, with my perspective from about 10 years in the business. So I've only got about 5 minutes, so let me jump straight in. This gentleman was a guy called Harry Warner, you might have heard of in the context of Warner Brothers. He's considered to be one of the founders of the talkies, and certainly one of the founding fathers of the movie industry today. But when his brother suggested in 1925 that they actually put soundtrack onto cinema, he came up with the great line, "Who the hell wants to hear actors talk?" Only in 1926 they went on to make their first talkie movie, and obviously the rest is history. And the reason why I use this example is because when you're actually standing in the middle of a revolution, which is what we are at the moment in mobile, it's very difficult sometimes to actually get a sense of history. If someone like Harry Warner, the genius that he was, can get the sense of where his industry was going so badly wrong, how difficult is it us to stand back in marketing and say, where's mobile going? And I'm going to try and briefly tell you about that. So when a medium starts, basically it tends to use what came before it. And in this case, this is an ad which I pulled out of a magazine ad from 1898 for a hangover cure. And what you can see is it actually uses the heritage, what came before it in terms of media, which in this case was newspaper advertising. So it's black and white. It actually wasn't talking about hangovers, it was talking about headaches because of the sensibilities of the time. But it basically was for a hangover cure. If you fast forward to what that might look like today, you can see it's a very different experience. It's still a magazine, but it's developed its own personality. It's got colour, it's got some humour, and the copy is sort of more interesting and more contemporary. But it took 120 years for that to happen, for that transition to happen. And so I thought it'd be just useful to see where we've come from mobile in the last 10 years very quickly, and compare that with, say, the magazine or the television industry. So 10 years ago, mobile advertising was very limited in terms of its ability. We had push marketing via SMS, and a few years later that became basically colour SMS with MMS. Again, not very exciting from an advertising point of view. These aren't very good ways to acquire new customers. They're very important in the mobile marketing remit today in CRM terms, but not really as far as advertising is concerned. When Admob came along a few years later, we started to do text banner ads, and those were sort of more recognisable as pull advertising, and they were more interesting from an advertising point of view, and they were hugely successful as well. We then moved into graphical banners, and again you can see the industry maturing very, very quickly here. And the big turning point was the iPhone, where we not only had to be able to develop ad units specifically aimed at mobile, which were very, very different from where we come from, which was sort of basically like mini ads from the digital world stripped down. And we started to develop our own formats with things like click to call and everything. We also had at that point applications which we could start advertising in, which added hugely to the opportunity to engage with the consumer. We then started doing video, which I'll come on to an example in a few seconds. At the same time, we had our first $1 million advertising campaign. So you can see that in only a few years now, it's moving through both in terms of format and also the ability for advertisers to engage and also spend money. What have we got on the horizon? Well, we've got location, which is increasingly more and more where people are looking to benefit from advertising. We've got augmented reality, which we'll be hearing a lot more about in the future. We've got couponing, and certainly the early experiments are starting to happen in couponing, where you can take a mobile coupon into your shop and they can redeem it through a technology rather than a manual means. And that means that from a fast-moving consumer goods point of view, who've largely been unable to engage wholeheartedly in the digital sector, you can actually start closing the loop and encouraging people to take their mobiles into a retail shop for the first time. And you've got exciting new formats. So we've come from this in 10 years to something which looks like this, and I just showed you an example before we hand over to Paul and his panel about what a modern mobile advertising campaign might look like 10 years down the line. This is one which we did for Reebok quite relatively recently, where the consumer can scroll over the ad and see what it's more about. They can then click through to a bespoke landing page on the mobile web, and they can do various things on that, ranging from looking where their nearest retailer might be, for product information, and obviously the viral element. But I think where it's moving most interestingly from an advertising point of view, and where certainly advertisers are getting more interested, is the video side of things. So I'm just going to finish off this short presentation and showing you what that might look like. I'll rephrase that, because I was hoping when I pressed this clever button that this video would actually appear within the context of the mobile, but you have to imagine this on the mobile. We were technically challenged.
The energy drink for your feet. With ZigTech, I get more train, less pain.
So that's an experience that the consumer can engage with today with advertisers on the mobile, which is a great device to do it in. So that gives you a brief snapshot of where the industry is going, moving very, very fast and very, very exciting time. And if you imagine where we've come from in the last 10 years, where we can go in the next 10 years, it really shows that mobile is going to be the place to be.